Hi everyone and welcome to the AllAboutU podcast. I'm your host Ubuhle Nyati, and in today's episode, our second episode, I'm joined with special people, my friends Leago and Nqobile. And so we're going to be speaking about vaping. It's really important that we amplify Gen Z's voices, especially with matters that matter most to us and affect us. It's going to be a very interesting conversation, and I'll hand over to Leago to introduce herself, and then over to Nqobile.
Hi everyone, my name is Leago. I'm 16. I'm friends with Ubuhle, as she's told you, and I'm really excited to be here. It's such a big deal to be invited to the podcast.
Welcome.
Hi everyone, my name is Nqobile Makhubu, and I'm also 16. I'm Ubuhle's friend from school, and I'm quite excited to be here.
Yeah, welcome to the both of you. So vaping, that is the topic. That is what we're going to be speaking about today. Sheesh. What are your thoughts on it? Just with the word vaping, just like what first comes to your mind?
Fog.
Fog. Okay.
It's just fog. Because, considering that vaping is basically smoking, it's just that it's smoking in a luxurious way, kind of. So I just think of fog, dangers like your lungs, what happens to your lungs, what causes you to vape, like what influences you to vape as a person, and yeah.
I mean, yikes. It's been getting
worse.
Yeah.
The pressure is getting worse.
Exactly. Like, it's intense. It's quite bad. I know that being a teenager is kind of like prime time to be like, we're experimenting, we're finding ourselves, we're trying out new things. But like with vaping specifically, it's like at the detriment of people's health.
Well-being.
Yeah, it's just like, it's very stressful. I'm honestly not a fan of it personally, and I get really stressed about it because I just kind of worry for the people who do it, who are very dependent on it. It's like there are better coping mechanisms that could be found, and this is just not one that I think people should be relying on as much as they are and have been recently.
Yeah, I definitely think vaping is, as you said, Nqobile, a luxury form of smoking. And in a way, I also think it's kind of like a euphemism. Yeah. Because I think with the word vaping, for many, they're like, oh, it's kind of just like inhaling air, just like flavored air. It's not that dangerous. It's not that deep. Like, it's just vaping. But it actually is. Truth of the matter is that it has some negative effects on your mental and physical well-being. And so, as you were saying, sorry, Nqobile.
No, I was just going to say that scientifically it is known that one vape equals 50 cigarettes. So not really the safest form to actually resort to.
Yeah. And I think, as you were also saying in the beginning, Leago, that, people are hooked on vaping. The addiction is actually kind of crazy to say. And it's really not a healthy coping mechanism. What are your thoughts about it, like students vaping? Your exposure to it, maybe, if you're comfortable to share. What are those for you, Nqobile?
So personally, I think like vaping, so because of stress and whatnot, like school, maybe family, social pressures and whatnot, many students resort to vaping because they just want to feel less stressful maybe and relieved and whatnot. But then I also feel like there's other factors influencing what they do. So there's other things as well to look at, like other people. I mean, if you vape in your bathrooms, like your school bathrooms, how is it going to affect other people who don't particularly associate themselves with like vaping and whatnot? So personally, I haven't seen anyone from school vape. So I don't know. I don't know, it's a good thing or what. But I haven't really seen anyone do it besides from like parents, maybe in Saints Fest.
Yeah, at school fest and all of that, yeah. No, I get you. Like, it's more open with adults, I guess, because obviously
They're
they're over the
adults.
age of 18, so
Yes.
they do it more freely. But yeah, Leago, you understand.
Yeah, for me, exposure, like if you'd asked me this question a few years ago, it would have been like, oh, you know, some adults at a music festival, some adults that I see like walking around the shops, maybe some of my friends' parents who do vape. It's like, it's not that big of a deal because they're adults and they know what they're partaking in. This is something that they're legally allowed to do and they're responsible for their own health. But now it's kind of like I'll go to parties or I'll be at the shops and I'll see people my age, people younger than me, too, people scarily younger than me, like vaping and doing so freely and doing so consistently. And it's honestly like a little bit terrifying because it's the point where, oh, they're just trying it out and it's not that big of a deal, except it is, because it's like any other drug. It's very addictive. It causes a horrible sense of dependency. And now it's like, are people really aware of the fact that they are addicted, or for them is it just another like, oh, you know, it's very passive, it's not something that they'll ever really need to be worried about?
Yeah, yikes. Vaping, sorry. Not good.
Good.
Yeah.
Good at all.
And it kind of hit deep where you were saying that you see people younger than you vaping. That's scary because we're already young.
Yeah.
Right?
Like we're
We're
children.
pretty young. We're children. Yeah. We're under the age of 18. And to see people younger than us vaping, it's just, where's this thing coming from? Like,
Yeah.
what is the main issue? So obviously we're filming this in June. So for many people that's around exam time, or they've just finished with exams, or they're just going to start exams, some in July. So stress levels are really, really high. Do you think that maybe that could contribute to people like vaping and turning to these like really bad habits?
Yeah, I think so, because you can look at like in a perspective of a family. I mean, your mom or your dad would expect you to like work hard and perform well in your exams and whatnot. So then that adds to the pressure, because obviously you as a student would like to perform well, like receive good marks in math or whatnot. So I feel like with this time, many people just do not know how to cope with the stress. They don't know how to deal with everything else. Maybe they just procrastinate and then they resort to vaping because they don't know how to deal with the pressures. So, yeah, I think vaping, I mean, the pressures surrounding exams and whatnot do influence vaping.
Yeah.
Yeah, from my side, I found that people our age already struggle a lot with pressure and with their mental health and how to manage and balance everything, trying to manage having a family, having a social life, and like trying to excel at school, because we all want to do well in the areas of our life that we care about, and school is a particularly important one. And like it's time consuming and it's exhausting. Like people don't sleep, people are trying so hard to make sure that they're consistently achieving this standard of good marks and doing well in sports and doing with their culture and giving their friends attention. And I feel like sometimes they turn to things like vaping to kind of take the edge off, you know, to try find some space of their life where they're able to relax and able to detach from all that stress. So I think exam season definitely makes it a lot worse, maybe particularly like within our age group, because like we're in high school. Like as you grow up, the stakes are getting a little bit higher, and then all the adults in your life are like, the decisions you're making now and the marks that you're getting now are going to dictate like the rest of your life.
True.
And to some extent, I suppose that's true. Like we're all applying for university, we're all trying to figure out what we want to be, but it's not like we have to decide what we're going to be by the time we're 18. Like we have time and we have life ahead of us, and I guess sometimes we can feel so trapped under the pressures that we're in that we don't realize that we do still have time to make mistakes. And by that point, that's when you start making the wrong mistakes, you know?
Yeah, so like, yeah, I mean, you summed that up pretty well. Yeah, I think especially for us in the grade that we're in, university is a big one. Deciding what career you want to go into is a really big one. And it's scary. For many people, they feel trapped, as you said. And then they resort to things like vaping because, you know, it edges off that stress. I mean, medically, it's because of the dopamine that gets released. So obviously that is like helping them.
The happy chemicals.
The happy chemicals, yeah, it makes them happy. but yeah, I understand when you say it's the stress. But yeah, I mean, on that topic, what do you guys want to go into? What are your interests? You know,
I think Leago should.
should start. Okay.
Okay, well, currently, I definitely like to go into medicine. The past few years, I've been really interested in like mental health, human psychology. Been doing a lot of research on it, and I want to go into psychiatry, which, like, for anyone tells me, that's like 13 years of studying. I know,
Yeah.
very daunting, but it's something that's really important to me. I think especially being exposed to things like this, I'm like, mental health is so important. And for a long time, it's been so disregarded. And now it's like people don't know how to take care of themselves anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's something that's really important to me. So medicine, hesitantly, I'll say medicine. Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually the same for me. Medicine, because I love children, like little babies, maybe pediatrics. So yeah, but then on the other side, I am very passionate about like baking and cooking. So I would love to own my maybe like restaurants or cafes someday. Yeah.
Well, interesting. I mean, a lot of us, or all of us here, want to go into medicine, so including myself. I think that's very inspiring to see young women wanting to go into STEM.
Yeah. Women in
Yeah.
STEM.
Women in STEM,
Women in
as
STEM.
yeah, exactly.
When physics is making it difficult for me.
Oh, yeah, actually.
That's a story for another day. But yeah, no, definitely. Just as you're saying now, like the stress of those subjects,
Yeah.
you know which subjects, exam time,
Everything.
big sigh. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Yo, guys, mental health. Mental health. That's a very big thing. I think, especially for Gen Z, going through COVID and everything has taken its toll on us. I mean, the first 2 years of high school for us were online.
Yeah.
So that was obviously very interesting, first 2 years. Leago, you seem like you want to say something about those 2 years.
Those 2 years were a time that I actually don't want to think about.
You don't want to think about
Yeah,
it, okay.
it's like, I feel like to a certain extent, it made coming back to school and coming back to, like, trying to reintegrate into society, it made it overwhelming. Because I spent 2 years basically interacting with no one but, like, my technology and my
Yeah.
family. Like, it makes it very easy to close yourself off from other people and to isolate yourself. Because, like, as soon as you're not answering your messages, what are they going to do? Come to your house? They can't do that. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like coming back and then being so frequently exposed to people again. It was a difficult transition. And I know that mental health was definitely like quite difficult for me. Like the first year after COVID, first year I was back at school every day. I was seeing people 5 days a week and then going out on weekends to see my friends. It was like, it was hard and it was draining. And even now it's been like 2 years? It's been almost 2 years going on that. And I've only just managed to be in a place where I've like found my balance. I know how to cope. I know when I'm able to be like, okay, I don't want to see people and there's nothing wrong with that, you know? Because it's like I'm trying to feel like I don't want to be making up for lost time all the time because we have time now.
That's so real. Yeah. I think especially for us, there's this feeling of like, oh, if I don't go out, like, I'm going to lose time.
Yeah.
Like, this is my one and only opportunity. Like, I need to go out. Like, what else? Like, there was COVID. Like, this is my chance, you know?
Yeah.
And so that also weighs a lot on a person, the expectation to always go out, but always to have the perfect, so-called perfect life for a high schooler.
Yeah.
You know, getting the good grades, having a friend group that you belong to. And, you know, also having that good social ranking at school. You know, not being an outsider, also belonging in that environment. And then also for us, leadership positions and all of that, heads of school and applying, you know,
everything else.
it's a lot. And I definitely see how that contributes to one maybe vaping, because, you know, for most people, or for some people, for some students, vaping allocates them that space to find a friend group.
Yeah.
You know, as we were speaking about earlier, you know, how like students are vaping in the bathrooms and all of that. you know, even though vaping is very bad, right? Those people who are vaping together in the bathroom have found a sense of belonging with each other.
Yeah.
And so sometimes taking them out from that brings back all of the mental stresses on top of school that they were suffering with before. So I think also the conversation of mental health is just really, really important. Especially since, like, even though we do have those pressures of, you know, university and the applications and all of that, it's also important to build the right foundation for yourself now, before you venture out into the bigger world.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, sorry, I interrupted you, Nqobile. You wanted to say something.
I even forgot what I was going to say.
No, that's
okay.
fine. Yeah, but that is very, very true. But yeah, I mean, what are your other thoughts on it? You know, the students vaping, besides the sense of belonging that they may want to find, what are your other thoughts on it?
I mean, like, yeah, I feel like at a certain point, it's like the overexposure to social experiences makes you forget that you're allowed to still be developing the person that you want to be, you know? And if the person you want to be doesn't align with what the people around you want you to be, that can also make it really difficult, because it's like going out into social situations, like you go to a party or something, and then, okay, bit of a personal experience, but like you go to a party and then someone's like, hey, do you want? And then you say no, because I say no, it's not something that I want to partake in. Also, I have asthma. I'm not going to be risking myself like that.
Real, so real.
Yeah, and then it's kind of like, it makes you feel excluded. You know, it makes you feel like, oh, maybe I'm the one being weird. Maybe I'm being a little bit too uptight. And like, just a reminder, it's okay to be uptight about your health. Look after yourself 100%. In the long term. Be able to say no to what other people want if that's what's best for you. Because at the end of the day, in like 20 years, if this has a really bad effect on you, they're not going to be the ones dealing with it. It's going to be you, and you have to put you first and look out for yourself. And if that's the reason that you're partaking in such activities, then just take some time with yourself and reflect on that, you know?
Truly, yeah.
That is true. I think, Leago set above, but
said it all, yeah.
Yeah. I just, personally, I think it's all about knowing what you want as a person. Like, if you want to vape, then unfortunately, but then if you don't, you have the right to say no. And don't feel bad about it. And I think that's pretty much all of it.
Yeah. But as you were saying, like the both of you, like it's okay not to do it all.
Yeah.
I think even just talking about social media, for instance, you see the people posting like a day in my life video, what I eat in a day, and even if we don't know it, we're being influenced.
Yeah.
And I think that the stress of that can also help, well, not help one feel a space of belonging within their friend group. And therefore they have to like kind of like say yes to things like vaping so that they don't feel excluded. Which is not good. I think for Gen Z, I mean, we're a big group, obviously. We're a generation. But for many of us, we've experienced more or less of similar things. So the COVID, and for a lot of us, it's being in high school right now and looking at universities and all of that. Building up one another is really important. And I think that comes through with an understanding of what may be right for me may not be right for my friend.
True.
So yeah, that's really, really crucial.
Yeah.
But vaping, honestly, I think, as you were saying earlier, it's something really bad, and I think it should be okay not to do it for your own mental, physical well-being in the future. You know, vaping is obviously something that is new. I mean, we're seeing the rise of vaping amongst Gen Z, so our friends, students, peers. But obviously, a lot of people don't know the long-term effects just because it's so new, so there's so little research around it. But that's a danger, too. So do you think it's some sort of ignorance around it, that people just continue to vape because, you know, they're like, oh, it's not too much research, so I mean, regardless, it's probably very minor health effects in the long-term, I guess, sphere. Do you think it's that maybe, or do you think it's like peer pressure? Like, where do you think this vaping thing comes from, aside from stress? Because that we've spoken about a bit. Do you think it's like maybe peer pressure? Yeah. What do you think?
I think it is peer pressure, definitely, and social media marketing. So, like, you know how they use colorful logos and whatnot, like your purples, you know that vaping has like flavors attached to it.
Like it smells nice.
Yeah, it smells nice.
Yeah, that's a real point. Sorry to stop you there, but like it smells nice.
Yeah.
Like the health effects, obviously, I'd say we're somewhat aware that it's very bad.
Yeah, true.
But I mean, for one person who were just to like walk into the school bathroom or walk into a vape shop, they'd be like,
Kind of smells nice.
kind of smells nice. Like, let me just try
It
it.
smells gross, like cigarette smoke. So obviously,
That's
the
the other
like an
thing.
association thing, you know.
Yeah.
It's like, oh well, you know, cigarettes smell bad, and
Yeah.
obviously that means they're bad for you because
True.
it's like it's a linkage thing. Like when I think of nice smells, I'm like, ooh, scented candles, bath bombs, you know,
100%. Like,
all the self-care things.
everyone's attracted to things that like smell good.
Yeah.
Like, no one would want to have like an ice cream that smelled like, I don't know, grass. Like, no one would ever eat that. So that too is important. But as you're saying,
yeah, and the influence that social media has over Gen Z, like, you know, your TikToks, your Instagram, Snapchats and whatnot. So I feel like because we are so exposed to those social media or social platforms, we tend to like get attracted by things like vapes and whatnot because they just seem so cool. You know, you want to assimilate with everyone, with what everyone else is doing. And yeah, the use of marketing, manipulation as well, I guess.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in the same wavelength with you two. Like, I agree because also at the stage where we're very easy to influence, you know?
100%.
Like, I know I can be very easy to influence. I can be very easily convinced to do certain things, which is what also makes it harder to stand your ground, you know? Being a bit of a people pleaser might be a problem as well because you kind of want to maintain the peace, want to keep the people around you happy. And then it also might just be like I don't know how to explain this, like a magpie brain thing. Like you see something shiny and you're like, ooh, I want to touch that.
or like,
you know?
something like a red button. Like when you see a big red button, you just want to press it.
Yeah.
Type of thing.
It's just like, it's like an itch you want to scratch. Like you just want to see what it's like. You want to see the experience. And it also might be like a status thing because I know that vapes can be very pricey. They come in all different shapes and forms and colors. And it's like a flashy thing to like show, oh, you know, like I have this. You're trying to be very passive and you think it's very cool. And then people kind of show off that they are able to have that, you know, which also might add to it. So it's a lot of thing, and I think it changes, it varies very much from person to person, you know. From one person's perspective, it might just be like, oh, I can, so I will, you know. From someone else, it's like, oh, well, you know, my friends want me to, or like, you know, I'm a little bit bored, I want to try out something new. And it's like, there's a certain feeling associated with doing something you're not supposed to do. Like, you know, when someone tells you to do something, your mom's like, oh, go wash the dishes. And you're already going to do it. But now you're like, I don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah.
It's like the opposite of that. It's like, well, yeah, you see something and then you know you're supposed to not do that. And now you're very tempted to do that, you know. And it's like, sure, I understand the temptation, but consider yourself as well. Consider your lungs. Consider that you don't know how it's going to affect you. And also, Ubuhle, what you said about, like, we don't have much research, we don't know the long-term effects. Regardless of that, we do know the short-term effects. Like, the content is there and how people have been exposed to maybe vapes that were very high concentration or contain drugs that they weren't aware were in there. You know, like, it's just another way that people can be taken advantage of, or people can be hooked into addiction, and it's not even with their knowledge because it's like, oh, it's just flavored air, I'll be fine, you know.
Yeah, 100%. And I think social media marketing is a big one. As I said earlier, like, I think vaping is almost like a euphemism of smoking. It's almost like a luxury. Like, you get to vape, you don't get to smoke cigarettes which smell bad and taste bad and all of that. so yeah, social media marketing. I mean, the word vaping, we spoke about this in the first episode, but the word vaping, broken down, like it's just vapor. Vapor is literally like what we learn in like what, physics or chemistry. And it's just,
boils.
just water balls and the vapor. But it's not vapor. It's a whole, it's a lie, really.
Yeah.
As plainly as I can put it, it's a lie. And I think for many Gen-Zers, it promises a life that maybe is bought via social media. Yeah. So it's just kind of sad seeing, these students come out of COVID, already be stressed by their experiences of COVID, and then, turning to things like vaping, which, I mean, for us, we're very easily influenced, as you said earlier. Like, it's not that hard for us to, buy a product that we saw on TikTok.
Yeah.
Not
Self-call out.
So same goes with vaping. Like, it's not that hard for people to just be hooked like that because of the life that it promises via social media. Also, I think social media, a lot of social media platforms like to portray vaping in a very positive light. For example, one thing I'm thinking of right now is the like the bubbles that they blow and everything, or circles, and all of these tricks. Yes. Yeah, sorry, I'm not calling it bubbles. But yeah, I'm just thinking of that. Like, it's like, oh, do this trick, like it's super harmless. It's like blowing bubbles like when you were a kid, just like maybe more luxurious.
And it looks cool.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, it looks cool, but then
but it's really bad.
it is.
Yeah. So yikes.
Yikes.
That sums it up.
That sums it all up, yeah. But I think what's also important is that even though we're speaking about vaping and we're trying to bring to light the negative effects of vaping, we also need to understand that, let's say, if we were placed in a position where we were hooked on vaping, because obviously the nicotine in it is like bad. That's what hooks people on, the nicotine. Not to show much judgment to the person, because I also think that showing judgment also adds on to the stresses of life that they're already facing and that they're using vapes to escape. So I think in this conversation, as much as we're bringing to light that vaping is bad, and that we do encourage most people to stop and seek professional medical help, that we're not judging you, but we're trying to promote you looking after yourself and looking after your future self. There's this one quote that I feel like has been going viral on like Instagram or TikTok, but it's like, your future needs you, your future needs you. You know that one? Like, there's a sound there on like Instagram or whatnot. But
I don't use Reels, but carry on.
Anyways, but yeah, I think that's really important, that like your future self needs you. Look after the person you are today so that your future self looks back at who you were and smiles.
True.
So I think that's really, really important.
That's very powerful.
Thanks.
Very powerful.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's our little 2 cents from us. Do you guys have anything else you want to maybe add on that? Looking after your future self now?
I mean, yeah, I think sometimes it can be a bit overwhelming to think about everything that the future holds, like having all these discussions about adulting.
Real.
It's like hearing from like people who've recently become adults how difficult it was to transition, and I'm already like, it's kind of rough now, and I'm literally still 16,
Yeah.
So it can be overwhelming. And I think for me, in my own mental health journey, it kind of started with being able to sit down and be like, okay, don't try emulate all those, that girl, day in my life, I live this perfect, wake up at 6 a.m. and exercise and then do all my work and then go out to a party and then...
Unrealistic.
It is,
Just don't try emulate someone else's life. Be true to yourself and be authentic to yourself and make decisions that make you feel healthy and happy now. And building those habits is something you'll be able to carry on into the future, like learn how to take care of yourself, and then you'll be able to carry on taking care of yourself, and you'll be able to be happier as you grow.
I think, one thing that's just coming to my mind is like, fight against that instant gratification.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard. Obviously, it's hard,
Yeah.
but you have to.
Yeah.
Future you would be proud.
Yeah.
True.
And that instant gratification, you know, if you don't know already, is vaping.
Yeah.
I think it gives you that life that you want now, but future, guys, like future you needs you.
Yeah.
True.
So that too.
Yeah, and I think it's important to love yourself, like show yourself your love. Have someone to talk to if you're struggling with something. Tell your friends maybe to do certain activities like yoga, or I don't know, play Monopoly. Is that Monopoly? Yeah, I don't know.
That might start a whole war with my friends, but like,
But then, like, have people to laugh with, smile because you know you're happy.
Yeah.
You understand? Like, have people to talk to, maybe take a walk, de-stress. Like, look for other alternatives, healthier and more beneficial alternatives to vaping. Talk to your parents. Like, having at least a mutual relationship between your parent is one thing that could help you get through it. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's basically it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, thank you guys for joining. I really do think it was a nice conversation, an interesting conversation. Like, we spoke about so many things that are really relevant to our generation. To many people who may be listening, it's really may hit a, what do you call it, hit a string, something like that, you know, with them. It may tug on their hearts.
I have no idea.
Yeah,
Like,
we
I
were
get
looking
what
at
you're
Julia.
trying to say.
But yeah, no, thank you guys. I think, as I said earlier, it's so important that we amplify Gen Z's voices. I mean, look at us. We're aspiring doctors. Come on now, like women in STEM. So
Checking in 15 years, I'm going to have that certificate. I'm going to feel so good about myself. And be like, yes,
Dr.
it's
Leago.
doctor. Thank
it's
you.
Doctor. It's Dr. Leballo. It's Dr. Nqobile. Yeah, 100%. But yeah, for those who are listening, the Gen-Zers, we're here with you.
Yeah,
That's really important. We're here with you. We're not judging you.
true.
I think, especially when talking about these topics, it can feel like, oh, they're judging me. I'm just going to vape more.
Yeah.
No,
Like, they're
we're
judging me. I'm stressed. Therefore,
I'm going to
yeah.
vape more. But like, no, we're here with you. The reason why we do these type of things is to inform you and to help you.
Yeah.
If you don't have that space where you can talk, talk comfortably about these topics, then, you know, obviously we try to create those spaces for you guys.
True.
But what's most important is that if you are hooked on vaping or the nicotine and you are experiencing some health, negative health effects, then you have to seek a health professional. Do not fight silently. Like,
True.
there is help out there. Please go seek help. That's really, really important. And then obviously for those students who maybe haven't exposed themselves to vaping or experimented with vaping, support your friends who do vape. Also give them that space that they can come to you and speak to you. And that you guys can also relate on maybe matters that you're struggling with and hear them out. I think that's really super important. But I mean, other than that, I mean, thank you guys. Like, it's been a really, really
Thank
great
you.
conversation.
I had so much fun.
And so, yeah, I think that's it from us. So, yeah, to everyone out there, thank you so much for listening to the All About You podcast. We hope you learned a thing or two. I definitely think you could have learned a thing or two from this conversation. But we look forward to meeting you guys and speaking about another topic next time. So stay tuned and enjoy. Bye.